My dear friends, greetings and welcome. In this video, we will go over the step-by-step process of a new custom motorized bike build. We shall call her the Little Lady. A motorized bicycle ideal for young kids and short people. Now, let us begin with the plan. We will take a 20-inch bicycle frame and combine parts of it with a larger bicycle frame to produce a hybrid of sorts. Our objective will be to lower the saddle position and also to increase the torque for hauling cargo. Hopefully the increase in torque will complement the panniers we plan on adding to this particular build. Our bean counter is still trying to figure out where the money is going to come from. Anyhow, we began the Little Lady with a new saddle design. By incorporating the front forks and rear tire from the children's bicycle, we are able to considerably lower the saddle position. Our only concern was the pedal clearance with the ground due to the smaller rear tire. So, when we spied the opportunity to lower the rear tire, we seized it. We widened the holes in order to use some heavy-duty bolts. It should be okay, but we will definitely keep an eye on it. Well, one day a while back, we were walking down the street when we came upon a shoe rack someone had placed on the sidewalk with a free sign on it. It was made from hardwood. Well, this piece will now make up our saddle base. We will use a piece of this salvage screen door to wrap around the saddle base to increase its strength. Then, once we attach the screen, we can open our holes again and install it. Now, originally the plan had been to add springs under this saddle base, but after much consideration, we have decided to make the saddle base stationary and part of the frame. To help support it and strengthen this part of the frame, we will weld more of our salvage screen door to our frame, connecting this point to this point and this point. Then we attach our wooden saddle base using screws. Once the base is secure, we can turn to our actual saddle seat. This design will be an offshoot of the hinge in front, spring in back saddle design. By attaching the saddle to a separate board, we can make the saddle adjustable along this length of board. As for the springs, we will shed a little weight and material from the blue bike's original seat. Finally, we can bolt our springboard into position. This board actually came from some sort of box spring that had fallen off the back of a truck and been abandoned. It was wrecked. However, we saw potential in the robust wooden slats, and so we gladly salvaged them. Now, the saddle on a motorized bicycle weathers quite a bit of abuse. Having changed its location to above the rear wheel, it is the last thing we want to have fail on us, so any chance we get to strengthen or reinforce this point is an excellent investment of our time and effort. Yes? Say yes. Alright my friends, in the interest of full disclosure, this plan keeps changing, and at times we honestly don't know whether to re-edit the video or leave our reworked plan in its entirety. So after some consideration, we have decided to edit for brevity. Just be aware that figuring this saddle wasn't as quick and easy as our edited version may imply. You will certainly notice proof of this all along the place. As usual, the budget for this project is practically non-existent, so we have wholly relied on our resource piles and tool assortment to make it work. It's been quite fun actually. Anyhow, to conclude the saddle, we have only to cut and attach our mobile saddle, springboard, springs, and actual saddle, and sim a la bim. One small note, yet large benefit, gentlemen. Having moved our rear axle to this location now makes this braking system viable and back in play. Since these forks and wheel belong to the same bike, they match perfectly. And there we have it, a rear braking system already installed. The Lord is shining on us today, my friends. Now, we have only to replace the cable and cable cover with a longer one and install the lever onto our handlebars. Everything is falling into place, yes? Now, onto the engine installation. Okay, before the motor, we quickly fixed the flat tire with some green slime and installed our hub adapter and 34 tooth sprocket, I believe. No surprises here, took about an hour last night. Okay, as far as the motor goes, we have decided to pull our oldest motor and install it on the little lady. It has been sitting for at least 6 months and was first fired up over 15 years ago. It has over 1,500 miles on it, but the time has come to put some more miles on it. At least we won't have to break in any motors on this build. Open throttle straight out of the gate. Assuming 6 months of collecting cobwebs hasn't caused any damage or deterioration, well, we shall soon find out. Before we can move on to the gas tank, we must also install our exhaust. This way we can shape our wooden fairings to complement the exhaust and not impede it. Unfortunately, we are out of the MZ65 style exhaust, so we will take the stock exhaust and do what we can for it. I know, but perhaps this way we can gauge the difference in performance between the two. We can take a moment to observe the difference between stock and a cleaner port match. Thanks to the Portinator 2000, this exhaust went from this to this in about 60 seconds. Just clamped it in a vise and went to town. Once the motor and clutch and throttle are installed onto our frame, we may turn to the more challenging aspect of this build, the gas tank. Normally the tank position would be here, but because the top tube runs parallel to the bottom tube, we must seek an alternate position. We have in this situation seen builders attach a tank behind the seat. We, however, have something else in mind. We will use more of those wooden slats we mentioned earlier to create an elevated base to mount the gas tank to. 2 on either side with the tops cut at the same angle. We can use bolts to clamp them in place. We rummaged in our pile of scrap metal and came up with this old deformed stake and used our grinder to cut a piece the same length as our tank. We found that it complements the shape at the bottom of our tank like matching Legos. Also, it is exactly as wide as our wooden slat stands. It is not often that something works out so perfectly. So gentlemen, 5 minutes on our drill press and we have all of the holes necessary to attach everything together. At this point we have only to install our chains, run our fuel line, put our front tire on, and then we can test ride the little lady to make sure everything is running smoothly before we can continue on to the aesthetics. I believe that this is a good point to divide this video into 2 parts. This first part has covered the structure and mechanics, and in the second part we can mount our panniers and see what we can do about blending everything together. We have an experimental technique we would like to try for the first time in the next video, but for now, making sure everything works fine will be our goal before ending this video. So, with that having been said, on to the test ride. Well, gentlemen, I have got to say that I am very well pleased. She fired right up. It was fantastically pleasing to have this motor fire right up. Now, it does not have the power of the YD100, but for an old school China doll, she pulls faithfully and steadily. As soon as the engine kicked over, she grabbed and accelerated. Her top speed has definitely been reduced due mostly to the stock exhaust. However, we can be certain that the reduced wheel size was also a factor. The 34 tooth sprocket seems to have struck a good balance between the torque and top speed. we are certain that when we upgrade our pipe, we will achieve a significant increase in performance. We have always wanted to try the F2 thrust, and perhaps this will be our opportunity. Well, gentlemen, I am excited to progress on this build. We plan on adding our air scoops to our wooden fairings, all very exciting. Meanwhile, there is another build we will also be working on, a little surprise. Anyhow, my dear friends, until we meet again, I leave you in the grace and favor of the Lord. This is Soggy, signing off.